Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here, joined today with my sensei, John Lenhart. Hi John.
Hi.
So today we've got a lovely subject to talk about, and it's humility. Humility for me is about being humble enough to listen to other people and not think that you're right all the time. Understand that truth can be hurtful, but it can also be the most powerful thing in the world. And you've got to be humble to be able to take it on. John, would you like to introduce some humility to us, please?
Right. So we had talked about this in a previous show, is that the definition of humility is the ability to consider you're wrong, or like you just said, the ability to see how someone else could be right. The problem is people have this definition of humble as only coming into play when someone is wrong.
Yeah.
So the way to be most humble would be to be most wrong. And then I talked about this where I triggered somebody in a post, because I love to ask people, Christians especially, was Jesus humble? Because if your definition of humble was wrong, then a Christian saying Jesus was wrong, which the Christian is then saying Jesus wasn't the Son of God.
Yeah.
So they have this wrong definition. They get upset and they yell at me and they take off. But see, the thing is that the definition doesn't have to do with being wrong. It has to do with considering you're wrong. So that's where I like to test people. Yeah. So I have these two questions I always ask people. When they have a certain position and they're adamant about it, I say to them, is it possible you are wrong?
Yeah.
They say no. I say, well, it's nice talking to you. And I leave. Why are you leaving? And I go, if you can't consider you are wrong, there's no reason to talk to you. The first step in changing anybody's mind is they have to see the other side. They have to consider it. So that's the definition of pride.
Yeah.
Pride is the unwillingness or inability to see another perspective or to see how you are wrong. So I'll tell the person, I didn't ask you to admit you're wrong. I didn't ask you to agree you were wrong. I asked you if it was possible. You said there's no way. You're in pride. I'm going to go. At that point, they go, no. I didn't understand. No. Yeah, it's possible. Because no one wants to be like, that's a massive unconscious confrontation. I just proved in front of your unconscious brain you are in pride, and now your unconscious brain is going to absolutely wreck you. So now they go, no, it's possible. Now I get to ask my second question. How would I prove you wrong? And if the answer to that question is I don't know, then the answer to the first question is no.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the two questions I love to ask people is it possible you're wrong? And then, which is unconscious confrontation. And then if they say yes, I say, how would I prove you wrong? You show me how to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I love that. Now, while we're talking about humility, and last week we spoke about elections, right? It literally just fits in perfectly. So we look at the way that people are with their voting, we look at the way that they speak, and we even look at what they class as patriotism. Now, patriotism means you're all for your country, you're all for, we're the best country in the world, we're the strongest, and you hear a certain member, you hear them both talking about it, they're both front runners at the moment. Now, if we were to ask them, is it possible that there's another country that's better in the world, they will say no, right? Which shows, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with America, absolutely not. I love America and Americans and everybody in it. But it's when you go and you look at that patriotism and you look at them saying, no, we are the best, and this is what's getting taught to the people. So from coming from a high level, they're actually being taught not to be humble, depending on who they're following.
Right. And this, you're opening up a great point, and I don't want to go all the way down this path, but I'm going to point this out, is that there are moral things which are always true, and there are ethical things which are just true for a certain location. And one of my favorite words to talk about is loyal. What is your definition of loyal? Because loyal is not moral, it's ethical. And the proof of that is loyal isn't supporting someone who's right.
Yeah.
That's just. That's karma. Loyal is supporting someone even though they are wrong.
Yeah.
There are people who say, you know what, the mafia has people loyal to them. I want you to be loyal to me. You want me to support you when you are wrong. You want me to enable you. And so this word loyal is not a moral word. It's an ethical or a man-made concept that actually, when you think about it, you don't have to be loyal to someone who's right. You're just being just. So the same thing with patriotism is when you start looking at that patriotism, you really want to get to a definition, you really want to get to a context, and you got these people creating this word that really isn't moral. It prevents you from doing these bigger things. And really what happens now is this leads right into people feeling insecure. So what happens is when people have these definitions wrong, or when people hear me talk about loyalty and patriotism and realize, oh my goodness, I had the wrong definition, how do they respond? If they are insecure, they become a boss and they try to force you to change your mind, force you to agree, or they take off and run away. And they're not, that is proof someone's not humble. They can't consider it, they can't repeat it back, or they won't stay in the discussion. I can't tell you how many times I've started a discussion with somebody on LinkedIn, and the minute I've shown them they're wrong, they take down everything, their post, my post. And that's why a lot of times, you know, when people say horrible things to me in these posts, I let them stay up because I know they're going to eventually get taken down, because these people are going to realize how far off they are, and they're not going to want to leave it up because they're insecure.
Absolutely. And just while we're talking about the patriotism, we get it in the UK as well with the Scotland-England thing. It's always been, you know, it's like we don't need Scotland. Scotland doesn't need England. We want to be independent. Do you know if every human being was independent and loved every other human being in the world, there wouldn't be any divisions or problems, you know? So humility is a massive thing for me. And this took me a lot to come over through my life, because it got to the point where I thought I was always right. So that was stubborn. You know, and people say, oh, it's your star sign, you're Taurus, you're meant to be stubborn, it's a fixed sign, do you know, and people use these words and these reasons for not being humble. And it doesn't matter what day you were born on. Yes, it might put you towards some traits and whatever, but it's a choice. Humility is a choice, and it's our choice to be open to more information and love of other people.
Right, so one of the ways I see who's humble is who talks second. So what happens is when I see people arguing, the boss, the insecure boss is going to talk first. They're going to try to force you to agree with them. And if you truly understand their position well enough, you can repeat it back to them. At that point in the argument or discussion, who knows both sides? You do.
Yeah.
At that point, you could change your position so that it isn't wrong. At that point, you could find out if your position was wrong. You could just agree, and they never knew you were wrong. But so that second position, when I see people talk second, I usually know those are the humble people. Because here's the reality. Humble is the internal ability to consider I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If a person doesn't have humility internally, then they will be humbled externally, and that's called humiliated.
Yeah.
Humiliation is when a person is forced from the outside to consider they're wrong. Yeah. So a humble person can never be humiliated. And everybody seems to be afraid of being humiliated, and their response is to be a boss, to be insecure, to yell more, to be less humble. And all it ever leads to is humiliation. You can remove humiliation from your life completely if you are humble.
Yep. And how do we know if we are right or wrong, or what we feel is by asking more questions about what their opinion or what their information is. They might say one thing, we might think another. All we have to do is ask them more about what they mean, and we might be able to see a whole different perspective. Not enough people ask enough questions in this life, and I believe that leads to humiliation. They fight a battle based on what they think they know against something that they don't know anything about.
Right. So I'm going to end this with an application, and this is a topic we're going to be talking about in some form in the next couple of weeks. But I want to show an application because there's a real danger in us adults not being humble,
Yep.
and it's how it affects teenagers. So here's what happens. Okay, so I'd like to end this basically on an application that's really important, where how us adults are really damaging these preteen and teenagers with humility. So what happens is when a kid is younger, and this is going to reference back to the justice monkey and everything else. When a kid is younger, they do a bunch of things, and not everything is good. Actually, most things do more harm than good. They're not moral. So the unconscious brain goes, that was wrong. And it wants to, knock the kid down. But us adults do a good job of saying to the kid, you're just a kid. You're just a kid. Don't worry about it. You're going to make mistakes. You're just a kid. So what we teach the kid's unconscious brain, or their justice monkey, is there is a future day when you're going to do everything right.
Yeah.
So the justice monkey says, I'm not going to do anything to this kid because there's a future day coming where it's going to do everything right. And then one day, preteen, teenager, the kid says, I got this, or I know what I'm doing. And the minute the kid says that, they're telling their unconscious brain, this is the rest of my life.
Yeah.
This is, I got it. We're not waiting for a future day. This is the future day. And the unconscious brain looks at this and goes, this is wrong. And the way I like to illustrate this is if you saw the Justice Monkey video, the Kombucha monkey, he grabs the cage, he rattles, he gets really upset. And I like to say it this way. Have you ever played a board game that's going to last for 2 hours? And 15 minutes into the game, you know there's no way you're going to win. You're going to sit there for another hour and 45 and just lose the entire time.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
You feel like giving up.
Toss the board, at that point that the kid says, I got this, their justice monkey gets locked in a cage, and the monkey is told, hey, the next 60 or 70 years, you got to sit here and watch this losing game. And it goes berserk. It's grabbing the cage. It is making so much noise that now the kid has to do something in response. And this is called teenage angst. We have created teenage angst. Teenage angst didn't exist more than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
We've created it because we've taught the kids, I got this, I know everything, I can do everything. So there's 4 ways a kid can respond to themselves saying, I got this. The first way is, and all of these are trying not to let the unconscious brain, try not to feel what it's doing. So the first way is to just pursue fun, is to just not think, not listen to your unconscious brain, just do whatever you want to do. And in a lot of ways, this is staying over busy. I'm too busy. I'm doing a lot of different things. I can't stop to consider that this monkey inside of me is rattling my cage. Yeah. A second way, so that is just be unable to think. The second way is to just not think, is to just give in. They call it peace. Whatever you say, that's fine. That's fine, I'll do it. The third way is control. The third way is to say, you know what? I am going to do these things and I'm going to make sure I'm in charge and I'm going to overcome this monkey. Monkey, I don't care what you're doing inside of me. I'm going to take control. I'm going to get ahead in this. And then the final way is perfection. You know what? I am going to volunteer at soup kitchens. I'm going to read to the blind. I'm going to do all these great things to try to balance this out and be perfect. Yes. So if you notice it, every kid's teenage angst is fun, peace, control, or perfection. The problem with the perfection one is we're not able to attain it. And when people realize that, they commit suicide.
Yep.
I've helped a lot of people who have tried to commit suicide never want to do it again. And the way is humility. What that kid should do is go, I can't be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. And that would release that justice monkey. In fact, what we teach parents to talk to their preteens about, and I did this with my son, is I look him in the eye and say, I don't got this. I'm an adult. I don't got this. That's humility. I don't have it, Colin. I don't know everything, and I am not perfect. And I let my son know that you don't have to be perfect, and don't ever say, I got this, I know what I'm doing, because you don't, because nobody does. Yeah. But the minute you do that, you're going to ramp up. More than 100 years ago, we did not walk around prideful like that and teach these teenagers to do that. We didn't do that. And then we didn't have teenagers running around doing all these damaging things and trying to handle stuff. All the problems we have in our culture right now with teenagers, we adults created by not being humble.
Yeah. And just to finish off on what you said there, which I find absolutely amazing, what is the first thing that coaches tell you when you go to a coach in life? You got this. If you were going to a coach, you wouldn't have it. I don't have it. I mean, I help people on a daily basis with intangible proofs and truths and all the rest of it, as you do. But I don't have it. I've got it to the best of my ability at the moment, but I'll always be a work in progress. I'll always be moving on and doing. So I'm not always right because I am learning as I go along. I can meet the most messed up person in their belief that could teach me everything about my life. And this is where the humility comes in. I don't help people from a place where I believe I know everything. I help people on the basis that I just want to love and understand them and help them understand themselves. And this is the difference between the likes of you and I and the majority of coaches and influencers and everything in the world. We're not here to say that I've got this, you've got this, we've got this together. It's let's go on a journey.
You and I, Colin, this is why we bonded, is you and I, we express our uniqueness towards others, which is where we do know that part. And what we do is we try to help other people become better than us. And the only way I can help someone be better than me is for them to be more themselves. So my goal is always to help someone be better than me, and which is humility.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, thank you, John. And I'm looking forward to the next one, which is Give Her How, which will be on Thursday. Give Her How is going to be a big one because people don't realise sometimes the difference between server and giver. So it'll be a big bomb for dropping on them. So thank you for today, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care, John.
Bye.